Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of AdMail. This is Bergman, founder and CEO of IRA Financial. I'm here to help you find the answers to the most frequently asked questions from my clients about self-directed retirement accounts. If you want to learn more, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media. Just search IRA Financial. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of AdMail. Here is another great question from Keith, and this Montclair, New Jersey, and I know exactly where that is. My wife's from a town very close. And Keith has a really good question about solo 401k plans. And unfortunately, it's a pretty, I would say, not super positive, happy situation, but here it is. I have a solo 401k with my spouse and I'm getting divorced. Can we still keep the plan? So thankfully, I don't get this question often. So most of my clients, thankfully, hopefully are happily married. But what happens? This does happen. So, and I've actually been an expert witness in a very messy case involving a divorced couple and a solo K. So generally, a solo K is adopted by a business. Generally, it's a business with no full-time employees other than the owners or their spouses. So we assume Keith and his spouse are the only owners. There's no non-owner employees that work more than 1,000 hours. So Keith has a solo K. And what happens? They're getting divorced. So the business isn't getting divorced, right? The individuals that own the business or work at the business and are owners are getting divorced. So what happens? Well, first question, is the business surviving the divorce? If it is, that's fine. The plan can stay intact and remain the same because the business is not being dissolved or liquidated. It's not getting divorced. It's still a operating business. So assuming the business is still operational, both spouses, even if they're divorced, are staying with the business, then we're good. Nothing really has to change. You guys may want to be joint trustees, or you may want to have a third-party trustee to keep things more organic and less controversial, but that's up to you. Now, what about, no, the business is being dissolved, we hate each other, and we can't work with each other again. Okay. In that case, another simple answer. You will dissolve the 401k, file a final 5500 EZ, and then you'll roll the funds into an IRA. If it's an alternative asset investment in your 401k, then a self-directed IRA or self-directed Roth IRA. Or if it's just a traditional plan with stocks or mutual funds, you can send it to a IRA at a brokerage firm, for example. You can also, if you, let's say, are taking a job at a company, they may allow for rollovers of existing 401ks, and you will have the option to do so as well into a new employer if you so desire. Although the most common approach is just roll it into an IRA tax-free. That's a direct rollover. You can do that as many times as you want because you have more investment options through an IRA. Now, third option, one of the spouses is staying with the business and the other is departing. That case, also pretty simple. The departing spouse will have a triggering event. Him or her will leave the company. They will have access to those funds, and then they can roll those funds tax-free to an IRA or self-directed IRA or to another 401k plan that they will be a participant in. And then the remaining spouse will essentially remain in the plan, still do what they are doing. If both spouses are trustees of the plan, you definitely want to remove that other spouse so they don't have any more rights into this plan. You also want to change your beneficiary forms because if you're getting divorced, you probably don't want to have your ex as a sole beneficiary. You may, but you may not. And otherwise, nothing changes. Again, when you file the 5500 EZ, assuming you have more than $250,000 in your plan, it's just going to be one participant instead of two. That's the only difference. The valuation will shrink depending on the assets leaving the plan. But procedurally, practically, in terms of operating the plan, nothing should really change. And those are generally the three most common scenarios. So I'll kind of give you a case that I was involved in, and this was nasty. Two spouses owned a business. One spouse, they're getting divorced, and both were trustees of the plan. What happened is one of the spouses literally just took all the money and put it into her IRA. Okay. And they were going through divorce proceedings. And thankfully, the spouse did not use those funds. She just kept them in the IRA, but she didn't have access and she didn't have the ability to move her ex's or now exes, but at that point, spouse's 401k into an IRA. Number one, there was no triggering event, right? They didn't dissolve the plan. They were under 59 and a half. They weren't able to just move the money from a 401k to an IRA. Also, she didn't have a right to move the spouse's IRA, even though she's a trustee of the plan. He's the participant. He didn't give her the direction to do that. So it became a whole mess. Thankfully, lawyers got involved, and ultimately she put the money back, and then they broke up the plan, and he closed the plan. He took the funds and put it into an IRA in his name. She took the funds and put it in an IRA in her name, and everyone has moved on. But it became nasty, several months of litigation. So remember, you need what's called a plan triggering event to move money out of a 401k. You can't just roll money out whenever you want. Generally, a plan triggering event is you are over the age 59 and a half, you leave your job, or the plan terminates. So if you are getting divorced, God forbid, and you're in this situation, you have some options. Again, the business stays intact. You can both operate the plan, assuming you're still involved with the business. If one leaves the business, then that spouse has a triggering event to move the funds to an IRA or a new 401k. If both leave, then plan is terminated, the business is liquidated, file a final 5500 EZ, terminate plan, and then both spouses can move the funds to their respective IRAs. And there it is. That is a really good question, and I appreciate it very much. That's from Keith V of Montclair, New Jersey. And again, if any of you have questions, don't hesitate. You can email them to info@IRA Financial. You can hit us up on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Really fun podcast, and I have some really good questions in queue. So don't forget to check us out next week. This is a weekly podcast that drops every Thursday, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun, and I will talk to everyone again next week. Take care.